Welcome back to my channel. My name is Jackie and I help people elevate, improve, and enhance their lives to live happier, healthier, more fulfilling lives through finding a balance between their mind, body, and soul. And today I want to expand on what I mean by balance between our mind, body, and soul, why I make these videos, why I started my website, what some of my beliefs are, as well as what some of the things I don't believe in and some of the shit I just don't subscribe to is. This is probably going to be the hardest video that I create. I had to script it. I want to make sure that I say everything that I mean. Make sure that it's clear why I'm here, which is very hard for me to articulate. It's a feeling that I've been feeling into for 2 years. I bought the domain name Jackie is Alive in 2020. I have been talking about a podcast. It's just something I knew I needed to do, but it's hard for me to articulate a feeling. So much so it's making me emotional because I know that this is something that I'm meant to do. For so long I was searching for my purpose. What is my purpose? What is my purpose? And it wasn't until I found my mind, body, and soul connection, my proper balance, that I realized that our purpose isn't to do something external. It's to find our mind, body, and soul balance. I believe that when we're born as humans, we are all a box of puzzle pieces. And in that box of a puzzle that's not put together yet is 10 blue pieces, 10 yellow pieces, and 10 pink pieces. Blue to represent the mind, yellow to represent the body, and pink to represent the soul. And until you find your mind, body, and soul balance, you can't put your puzzle together. And when you do put that puzzle together, when you find your mind, body, and soul balance, that puzzle that's complete is your happiest, most joyous, most beautiful life possible. I believe this because I've spent the last 35 years putting my puzzle together. For 20 or so of those years, I tried to fill my puzzle with all the wrong things, with designer bags and luxury vacations and expensive dinners. I thought that those things would bring me joy, would bring me peace. And when they didn't bring me joy and peace, then I tried to numb myself from the lack of fulfillment that I was feeling through weed or through a prescription for Xanax or through other drugs that didn't come from a doctor when those things weren't enough. Often I would find myself so uncomfortable in my feelings that I would dive headfirst into a big bag of Taco Bell or McDonald's because I found comfort in junk food, in food in general. I found so much comfort in that, and I was creating an imbalance, not only in my body, but in my soul as well. And when those things didn't work anymore, when I couldn't find comfort through weed or food or through buying new things, then I would get on a plane and I would leave, because if I'm not here, I don't have to deal with those things that I feel when I'm here. And I just traveled for years. Say all of this because I want everyone to know I'm not perfect. I've made mistakes. I've learned these lessons the hard way. I have made my life harder than it needed to be. I believe that it doesn't need to be as hard as I made it. It can be as simple as putting a puzzle together. I created my website and I make these videos to reach the person that I used to be, to reach the girl who needed a way to find a healthy outlet for the way that she was feeling, for the feelings that she was feeling. My goal with Jackie is Alive isn't to get you to conform to my puzzle, to have you pick up the pieces of my puzzle and try to make them work for you, because they're not going to work for you. Everyone's puzzle is unique to them, like their fingerprint. Everyone's balance is going to be different. My goal is to inspire you to go on a quest to find your pieces. And the best part about it is that they're free. None of the puzzle pieces are going to cost you anything except for maybe the cost of some paper and a pen or pencil, maybe a shift around on your grocery list. Many of the things that can fulfill our mind, body, and soul are practices, are habits, routines, rituals. They're things that we have to do, not things that we have to consume or buy or have. For some people, this puzzle analogy will be all that they need. It's going to click for them that they're not using their capable, resilient, strong, healing body to the best of their abilities. They're not using their creative, imaginative, complex and adaptable mind to the best of their abilities, and they're not in touch with their ethereal and spiritual soul to the best of their ability. They're going to take this little puzzle analogy and they're never going to watch another video of mine again. They're never going to read an article of mine again, and I honestly fucking love that so much for them. That might just be it, and that's amazing, and I wish you the best of luck on your journey to put your puzzle together. And for other people, like the person that I used to be, you're going to need me to hold your hand a little bit, and you're going to need me to tell you a little bit more. You're like, okay, a puzzle, I get it, but what's in that puzzle? What's in your puzzle? And that's why I'm going to continue to make videos and articles sharing the pieces of my puzzle, of what works for me. As I continue going on, not only in this video, but in my other videos, you're going to start to notice that a lot of these things are intertwined. For example, meditation and affirmations are two practices that I use for my mind, and they have helped me to master my mind, to take control over my mind, and to stop letting my mind control me. But they're also things that pour into my soul, and my soul loves when I take control of my mind. These pieces of our puzzle is like one hand washing the other. We all have a mind, body, and soul, or spirit, but I'm going to work backwards in explaining why I'm here to talk about these three main topics. Taking care of our mental health is a popular topic. We've heard mental health matters, we've heard about mental illness, medications, different mindfulness practices. This is a common topic nowadays. The same for taking care of our body. Gym membership, step count, dieting, anything that pertains to taking care of your body. There's a million TikTok trends about losing weight. Topics around our body and our mind are very common to discuss. But when it comes to taking care of our soul, there's a lot of misconception and false judgments about what a spiritual person looks like. That someone who is spiritual has to look a certain way, that they have to be vegan and they don't watch TV and they don't like money or monetary things, and that they talk like this, and that they're always happy. They think sex is bad, or that they have to use tarot cards, or whatever the other misconception may be. A huge goal of mine with this website and YouTube channel is to debunk some of these misconceptions. I've already touched on it a little bit with my meditation misconceptions video. I'm going to link that in the description as well. And that's why I'm starting here with the soul, with spirituality, because it's something that I'm very passionate about and something that has helped me to put my puzzle together. I very strongly believe that this new age spiritualists have made a mockery of spirituality. They have turned people off to connecting with their soul, because people believe that spirituality or connecting with their soul has to look a certain way. People have adopted spirituality as a personality trait. That personality trait is turning people off to connecting with their soul. Many of these spiritualists share these tips and tricks or their advice to living a better life the same way that I'm going to be, but they put themselves on a pedestal and they don't share the lessons that got them there. They just share the knowledge, these like one-liner tweets or these workshops and workbooks, but it's always sharing the light but never the darkness that got them there. Portray themselves as perfect, as if they never make mistakes, or if the mistakes don't help you arrive to the lesson. And I don't want to do that. I want to be the change that I wish to see in the world. And I would not have arrived here if I didn't make so many mistakes along the way. I believe that sharing my darkness, sharing things in my shadows, along with sharing the light that helped me get out of it, is how we can change this perception of what spirituality looks like. I don't want to be on a pedestal. I don't want to be looked at as perfect. I cannot live up to that. I am not perfect. I want to share how I found my mind, body, and soul connection, and I can't do that without sharing all the shit that got me here to begin with. On a lighter note, humans are mammals. We share a lot of the same characteristics as cows, dogs, squirrels, even pigs. Humans live modern lives and we have thought, which makes us feel separate from nature, living in houses, and we have TV and we have thought. It makes us not only feel separate from nature, but even above nature. But we are not above or separate from nature. We are interconnected with nature. We would not be here, we would not be alive without nature. We would not be able to survive without it. We as a society have never been so disconnected from ourselves, and we as a society have also never been so disconnected from nature. And I don't find that to be a coincidence. I believe that for many people, finding a little bit of soul balance in their lives may be as simple as spending a little bit more time outside in nature. And for other people, it might be as simple as finding a breathwork practice. We would not be able to live without breath, and we would not have breath, oxygen, without trees, without nature. I'm not going to go into the science of it all, but you can Google the benefits of spending time in nature, the benefits of breath work on the human body, on the human psyche. That connection, breath work, time in nature is soul fulfilling. It has positive impacts on us as humans. The best part about it is that it's free. It doesn't cost anything to go outside, take a walk down the block and notice the trees, the flowers. Just sit outside, put your hand on your heart, and just breathe. When was the last time you took a deep, intentional breath? A huge way that I have found a connection to my soul is through feeling my feelings, through learning how to navigate my feelings, to riding the waves of my feelings, to not attaching to my feelings. Allow feelings that might contradict each other to exist within me at the same time, that I can be happy and sad at the same time, and to know that that's part of being a human, that's part of our human experience. I have spent the greater part of 25 years learning how to navigate my feelings. I haven't decided how much I'm going to share about what I'm about to share, but it's necessary for context. It's not something that I talk about often, and it's obviously something that's still with me. But when I was 9 years old, I was sexually assaulted at school. Obviously, that came with a lot of feelings, and I started having really crazy nightmares, and I had just changed schools. And there was a lot of feelings and emotions going along with that. And I started seeing a therapist at 9 years old. I started learning how to deal with my emotions, how to handle my emotions, how to feel my feelings at 9 years old, when most kids are just living their carefree life. I started to come out of that and heal from that. Was a few years later. My dad was a captain in the fire department, FDNY in the city, New York's bravest. And then 9/11 happened, and that was hard on us all as a family. It still is. The fire department is a family to us. It is a family to my dad. And watching my dad have to put on his uniform week after week to go to funeral after funeral, to still have to do that is still very much a reality for first responders of 9/11. The illnesses, the cancers, the death is still something that we have to deal with. It's still something that a lot of families are dealing with. My dad has had multiple surgeries and cancer since 9/11, but thankfully he's still here with us. Not everyone is as lucky as we are in that sense. I should have gotten some tissues. A few years after 9/11, I'm a junior in high school. I think I know everything. I had a little job at Jessica McClintock in the mall. Throwback, if you know, you know. I'm about to get my driver's license. Life is good. Then my mom was diagnosed with leukemia. And she's happy and healthy now, thank God. The doctors at Sloan Kettering, which for the record, fuck Sloan Kettering, they told her that her insurance company wasn't paying them enough for her treatment. This was pre-Obamacare, so at the time it was still legal for insurance companies to deny patients additional coverage due to a pre-existing condition. So she couldn't get additional insurance. My parents had no choice but to start paying for her cancer treatments out of pocket. Not only is my mom dealing with life-threatening cancer, but now we can't afford her treatment. At that time I was a freshman in college, and it made the most sense for me to drop out and to get a full-time job. And as I mentioned, she's happy and healthy now, and everything happens for a reason. There were so many lessons that came along with that. But to say that that was a roller coaster of emotions and a lot of feelings to learn how to navigate, that would be an understatement. When the skies were finally starting to turn blue again, my brother's opiate and heroin addiction just really hit the fan. And anyone who is a family member of an addict knows what a toll that takes on the whole family. There were so many fights and disagreements, and then you make up. You have compassion, and then you have anger, and then you have resentment, and there's so many feelings that come along with that. And then you're worried and you're scared. My brother has been sober for nearly 28 months now, and I'm so proud of him. And I know what a struggle it is for him. And he is an inspiration to me. When I think that I can't get through something, or that I don't have the mental stamina to move through something, I think about him. I use him as my inspiration. So I just want to say to Matt, I love you so much. And again, we made it to the other side, and there's a lot of lessons in those things. I need to get a tissue. Shout out to the breath. I'm not sharing these stories for pity or sympathies. I'm sharing it for context. To share that I've been in the depths of life since I was 9 years old, and it has shaped who I am. And learning how to navigate those depths and those feelings without losing myself has helped me to connect with my soul and to conquer my mind. It doesn't necessarily need to be something that you share with others. It can be very private. There are going to be parts of my life that I don't share, that I keep private. It can be something that you keep to yourself and that you never share with anyone. I'm sharing this because I choose to. I'm sharing this because I want to. No one is forcing me to share any of this, the same way that no one will ever force you to share your mind, body, and soul connection. Your connection to your feelings is yours. It can be private. It doesn't have to be something that becomes for public display, even in the age of social media. Learning how to navigate your feelings is soul-filling, but as I mentioned, it also helps you to learn how to control your mind, to not lose yourself. Like just now, I got very deep into those feelings. Those feelings are very real, and I sat with them, I breathed through them, and now I'm good. As I mentioned earlier, it's like one hand washing the other. As you feed into your soul, you're also supporting your mind and your body. As you support your mind, you're also supporting your body and your soul. As you support your body, you're also supporting your soul and your mind. It's intertwined, and it doesn't ever untwine. And that's why we need the connection with our mind, our body, and especially our soul if we want to feel fulfilled. Put another link to another video in the description of this video to an intro to feelings, which can go into a little bit more about the connection between our mind and our feelings, and how learning to navigate our feelings can help us to not lose our mind and not spiral. Learning how to navigate our feelings can support our soul, it can support our mind, but it also supports our body. Again, one hand washing the other. Becoming comfortable in the full range of your emotions can help you to navigate your sympathetic nervous system. And the sympathetic nervous system is an aspect of our nervous system which manages our fight or flight. Fight or flight response triggers the stress hormone adrenaline being released into our bloodstream. It also can include an increased heart rate as well as muscle tension and rapid breathing. I'm not going to backtrack too much, but again, going back to breath work, breathing slowly, intentionally can help to regulate our body. My relationship with my body has been a very slippery slope. Born in 88, I grew up in the 90s, and in the 90s and the early 2000s, the body type that was portrayed in media, in magazines, online, everywhere was rail thin. My relationship to food and also my body subsequently has been very unhealthy because I did not have that body type. It was not natural for me to have a very thin body. It wasn't until I started to find the pieces of my puzzle that supported my mind and my soul that I also started to support my body in a healthy way. Learned how to take care of not only my physical body, but also my energetic body. One of the big topics I'm going to talk about here is not only supporting our physical body, but also our energetic body. And going back to the video that I linked in the description about feeling our feelings, what happens when we don't feel our feelings? They lodge into our energetic body. The concept of an energetic body is like very out there for some people. They don't believe it. They don't believe in energy, especially as it pertains to the human body. One very easy way to debunk that and to prove that we have an energetic body, and that is what happens when we go into cardiac arrest or when our heart stops. The medical professional, medic or a doctor, what do? They defibrillate you. And what is defibrillation? Now, I'm going to read it directly from Google. I'm not going to paraphrase here. Providing a relatively high voltage shock to the patient's heart, receiving between 100 to 360 joules of electrical energy. So in order to save someone's life through cardiac arrest, you have to give them electrical energy. Directly from Google, that's not my own words. The electrical energy from defibrillation can save someone's life by putting energy back into their hearts. And that's because we are energetic beings. Our hearts run on energy that comes from our breath. It's actually estimated that about 80% of our metabolic energy comes from our breath, comes from the energy, the life force of breath, and only 20% comes from food, which is just mind-blowing. And this is science. This is not woo-woo. This is not an idea. Proven scientifically. You can Google these things: defibrillation, metabolic energy. Our breath also has the power to stabilize our blood pressure. Circle back to a simple breathing exercise for the soul can also support the body. I have learned so many things about physical body health, physical body healing over the last few years that I used to believe were things that weren't healthy for us, things that weren't good for us. Completely blown my mind and has completely also changed my relationship with my body, my love for my body, my gratuity for my body. I learned that a healthy woman's body has between 20 and 30% body fat, and the American Council of Exercise estimates that 25% body fat is the ideal body fat for women. And now when you think back to history and you think of all those paintings of women throughout history, they all have a little bit of fat on them. And that was before social media, before Lindsay Lohan and Paris Hilton were on TV while I was a teenager with these like tiny little bodies, creating this impression in my mind that skinny is healthy. That's not necessarily true. A big thing that I will be discussing here is debunking this ideology, this picture in our minds that we have around healthy and what healthy looks like versus what healthy actually is. Spent the majority of my life trying to lose fat. I would put myself into these massive caloric deficits. I would be eating like 1,200 calories a day, burning 600 to 800 calories a day. By all statistics, by math, by science, I should have been losing at least a pound a week, but I wouldn't. I would lose nothing. And then I would have trainers that would be like, "Are you sure you're not snacking?" No, my body was holding on to that fat for dear life because that fat was the only thing that was keeping my body healthy, that was helping my hormone and my endocrine systems to operate properly. And now when you think about it, sometimes extreme athletes, they don't get their period. And that is because their hormone system is so out of whack because they have no body fat. it makes sense. A lot of the things that we've been taught, a lot of the things that we believe, a lot of the things that we see may not necessarily be the best thing for our physical body health. Mom's journey with cancer also taught me so much about our food system in America and how the majority of what we eat in America is not actually food. It's not providing us with nutrients, minerals, vitamins, or enzymes, just filling us physically up. Many of us aren't eating the proper amount of nutrients, enzymes, minerals, and vitamins that we need in order for our body to function at its optimal health. And then we're wondering why we don't feel good all the time, why we have anxiety, why we have depression, why we don't feel good in our bodies. And that's because we're not providing our bodies with the components that are necessary in order for us to live. For a while, I identified as vegan. I didn't eat any dairy or meat products. And then for a little time after that, I didn't eat any dairy or red meat products. And then sometimes I was only eating fish. But now I eat sustainable, locally sourced red meat and raw dairy, unpasteurized dairy. And I'm going to go more into that later on about why. This video would be very long if I added that into this. The journey to finding the pieces of my puzzle for my body had a lot to do with letting go of what I thought was healthy and learning what was actually healthy. Healthy doesn't necessarily mean skinny, or healthy doesn't necessarily mean vegan. I had to stop counting calories and start counting ingredients in order to see a shift in my physical body health, in order to start feeling good. I've never felt better than I do now, not even 20 years ago when I was 15 and allegedly in the best health that I would ever have. In finding the pieces of my puzzle that supported my soul and supported my body, I also found the pieces of my puzzle that supported my mind. So many quotes, I'm not going to go into all of them, but from famous philosophers that along the lines of controlling our world by controlling our thoughts, and that our thoughts shape our world. I think it's something that we all know, but for whatever reason, we're in a time where we believe that changing our thoughts and mastering our mind and taking control of our mental health is impossible, or that it's something that we can't do without pills or things from outside of us, that we need to buy things. When you start caring for your mind while also caring for your body and your soul, shit starts to go easier. The shift just becomes a lot easier. Mind starts to recognize the thought pattern, habit patterns that lead to stress, anxiety, depression, sadness, or even worse, and your mind starts to choose better. At some point in my life when I was feeling those feelings, uncomfortable in them, and I wanted to escape them, I would immediately turn to weed. I would roll a joint, I would hit a bong, or I would go to food. I'm on Uber Eats. I can't tell you how much money I wasted on Uber Eats. If I had only known that I just needed to sit with my feelings and find better mechanisms for dealing with them. I used to unconsciously almost reach for those things, to reach for a piece of cake or weed or whatever it was. And now when I start to feel those uncomfortable feelings come up, I consciously am able to choose better. I can sit with a breathing practice, or I can start to journal my feelings, or maybe I need to move my body and take a 20-minute yoga practice to make me feel better in that time. A big shift that I made in the last year or so, a little bit more than a year now, is to recognize the negative effects that coffee and caffeine had on me. And this was a really hard one for me to accept because I love coffee. I didn't loved coffee. It's not a past tense feeling. I still love coffee, but just because I like something or I love something doesn't mean it's good for me. And I think it was about a year that I was starting to recognize when I would drink coffee, I would start to feel anxious, maybe sometimes nervous, and just generally uncomfortable. Really hard thing for me to admit. For about a year before I finally admitted it to myself that I started to recognize that pattern. So hard for me because I had a very big habit of drinking coffee. Even created a personality around being an espresso drinker. And when I did photography for Nespresso, and getting my PR packages of the little coffee pods every month was one of my favorite days of the month. And I would try out like 6 different espressos in a row. No wonder I wasn't feeling good. It's like 5 p.m. and I'm having 1,200 milligrams of caffeine. That's not necessarily great. I even had a highlight reel on my Instagram, which is still up there. I've left it up there because it was a part of me, even if it's not a part of me now. That was dedicated to just the coffee that I would drink. Just because it was something that I would do or something that I loved didn't mean that it was good for me. And just because I proclaimed my love for it all over social media didn't mean that it was something that I needed to keep in my life anymore. We hold on to things that aren't good for us because we've made this proclamation, this declaration to the world online about who we are, what we love, and we feel almost fake or almost like going back on our word for changing our minds. And there's nothing wrong with changing your mind. That's another huge thing that I want to share here. Like, I used to be vegan and now I'm not. I used to love coffee and I still do, but I know it's not good for me, so I don't drink it. Things like that are vulnerable. It's a vulnerability to share something different than what you've always shared before, or to change your mind and say, hey, I've thought about this and I think I was wrong. That's hard to admit. And I hope that in sharing my vulnerabilities, I can help others to feel more comfortable with theirs. And in being open and honest and raw about my feelings, about the depths of my uncomfortable feelings, I can show people that there's a strength in vulnerability that cannot be found elsewhere. I feel stronger than I have ever felt before, and I have never in my life cried as much as I do now. I feel so incredibly proud of myself. There's nothing wrong with being a person who feels deeply. There's nothing wrong with having emotions that bring you to tears, whether they're good or bad. These are good tears, by the way, because I'm so proud of myself for being comfortable in my feelings, for being comfortable in these feelings that once controlled my life and once controlled everything that I did. In allowing yourself to feel the depth and the uncomfortableness of the hard feelings, you also open yourself to the expansion of feeling the depth of the equal and opposite feelings, the loving, the happy, the gratuity, the peaceful feelings. Jackie is Alive is a culmination of everything that I have learned on my quest to fulfillment, to finding my pieces of my puzzle. My name is Jackie, and I help people improve, enhance, and elevate their lives to find happier, healthier, more fulfilling lives through finding a balance between their mind, body, and soul. You can find me on social media at Jackie is Alive on everything. On Instagram is where I share pieces of my best life, what my most fulfilling life looks like, the things that fill me up the most. On TikTok, I share more about the tools that I use to support my mind, body, and soul. On Twitter, I share a little bit of everything and the occasional shit post. And on Pinterest and my website is where I go more in depth into these topics through different articles. I make new videos here on YouTube every week, so don't forget to click subscribe, give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you next week.